Okay, so we're in my studio house again, which is anywhere I happen to lay stuff down and leave it. Um, this is my friend Brendan here. He's over here, and Brendan has brought his Rome board over, and we've had a lot of discussion about binding placement, binding checks, where we set things and why. So very briefly, I'm going to tell you that Brendan is kind of a park guy. He's got this Capita. The Capita Outer Space Living, and he was riding it with a foot angles on both feet of 6, positive 6, negative 6, and he's a left foot forward rider. While looking at his bindings and stuff, we also discovered on his union binding that he had used 2 different holes on the front and had an offset heel cup of 1.5 on his left foot, which he's adjusting now. He's bringing it down to 1. And he wants to make sure he gets in the same hole inside the binding. Here, move your hand a second. You can see he's on the back hole there, and on this side over here, he's on the front hole. So he's canted his binding back this way. We're going to even them up, try to get both holes. So also, I just told you he was on a positive 6, negative 6. He also has mini disc because he's a park guy and he wants a lot of laterability and movement in it. But guys, when he went out in the powder, Brendan turned into a cartwheel. And he could tell you himself. What did the nose do most of the time?
Dive down.
Dive down, okay. Some of the things that could contribute to that would be how little bit of nose he had, now a little bit of tail, because he likes to split that ride over the rail right down the middle and do all that cool stuff. But when he got out on the rest of the mountain, there wasn't a rail to ride. He had to ride the board. And this goes into everything that you're starting to hear by the good channels. You need to look at your equipment. You need to check it out. And you need to set it up so you can do as much as possible. Don't limit yourself by doing something that only pertains to the park. I mean, look, there's a whole mountain out there, and when it's powder, we want to play in it. There's plenty of natural features and stuff that you can do all this adjustment to. So we're in the process of adjusting his board and setting it up so he can get an all mountain type setup out of it. And I hope this makes sense to you guys, because I guarantee you, all of you who just slap your bindings down, put them on there, and really don't get into the nitty gritty part, you're missing a whole lot of riding improvement, believe me. All right, so I'm going to kind of shut down on that. We'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, I'm backing up a little bit here. It was a long afternoon. It's 1:20. Working with Brendan here and stuff, and Brendan's going to kind of tell you what he had set up, because basically what we're trying to do is to say to you guys, hey, don't take your board out and ride the same setting year after year after year after year after year and wonder why you maybe haven't progressed. Part of the reason can be you don't know enough about your board, your bindings, and your setup to start with. You're just taking it out and using it and using it. And maybe you really enjoy it, but that's okay. There's a saying in golf, keep doing what you're doing and you'll keep getting what you've been getting. And it's true here of boarding too. So our minds are expanding, and we want you guys on the other side to expand your minds and start making some changes and vary things up. It's going to help you improve your riding. So Brendan, just tell them where you started with the board today that you brought me, and you've rode it for probably, what, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years, okay. So a little louder and tell them what happened.
Well, it's funny because when you have your board, you think everything's fine, but just a few minor tweaking. I'm hoping that will make worlds of difference in my riding. It
will if you notice. If you notice a difference,
yeah.
Then we're making a difference.
Yeah, I was noticing I was kind of struggling in the powder. My nose kept diving in the snow, and I was also not struggling, but it was hard to initiate my turns better. So I was at a -6, +6. We pushed our bindings out to -12, +12. Both my bindings weren't matching up. So I wanted to get them exactly the same and then go from there. We also, on the inside, moved our holes in.
Yeah, he had one of his high backs was two different holes, changing the alignment of the way it ran up behind his boot. So we now have everything symmetrical from one high back to the other. We also had his heel cage and adjustment, because it's a union binding, on slightly different marks for the length of the foot laying in too. So we evened everything up. He's at a 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way across. The one thing I see that kind of bugs me a little bit is if we look closely at the board here and I come in and whatever, you can kind of see that he has an overlap of the toe piece over the toe edge. And coming back to the heel, he has a bit of an overlap hang too. His boot size is a 10, isn't it?
11.
11. So he's right on the crust of a medium binding to a large binding. I would have preferred, looking at Brendan's board, to see a medium binding on there with the toe piece and the heel piece not have so much overhang, because if he starts tipping it up, I'm pretty sure he's going to start wearing that. But he's a park guy and he doesn't tip it up. He keeps a flat board. He lets it bend over the rail and stuff, but he does struggling with the powder and some of the turn initiations. So he's going to take this, take it out, take a ride, take some runs, check it out. And then from there, what are your options to do what next? Let's say your board keeps diving. What are you going to do? Because you actually have a directional twin. He thought he had a true twin, but it's a directional twin.
All we have to do is just move each binding back one set to give yourself a little bit more.
A little bit more float.
And it won't take that long.
No.
It'll only take 5 minutes or so.
Well, it shouldn't take that long. Anyhow, so he's going to make a shift a little bit more to the tail on a heavy powder day, take it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, maybe then he looked for a more directional board with a little more setback. Anyhow, so it was a challenging job to get those union bindings, to get those little carriers in the heel aligned to the squareness that looks like it's round. That's a tough deal with the union. But anyhow, so we're going to wish Brendan luck with that. And later in the season, he'll come back and tell me how this worked out. And the reason we went to a positive 12, negative 12, because he was positive 6, negative 6. We thought we'd keep his feet pretty much in the same type of line and do equal movements, because he had equal before. And from here, he can decide if he's going to, go a little more positive or whatever, but he's got a lot of options. So I hope you guys like this, enjoy it, and think about doing it with your boards.